Welcome back to Hacker Hangouts on a Saturday morning following DEF CON, which I am pumped about. This was not going to happen. You saw the thumbnail went up about 5 seconds ago, and we just pushed live because we are consummate professionals in full control of our lives and schedules. I got back from DEF CON. I'm excited. I haven't unpacked. I haven't gone through pictures. Those are going to go somewhere. It was. How was your con? What did you think of con?
It's definitely different. That's for sure. I said a lot, in prior streams that people were uneasy about it being at the convention center and weren't sure about it. And I said, wait till we get there. Wait till you can spread your arms and twirl in the middle of the floor and not hit anyone. And then tell me that you didn't like it. Hey, Braden. Morning. Got there, spread my arms, twirled, and I liked it. I'll say there were some negative things, and while I was there, I think I was a little more negative on some things than I should have been. By the end of it, I was completely won over, and I think it's mostly just a term. I think most of my gripes were just in the way they decided to lay out the floor, which is changeable, which is a solvable problem.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing: is I feel like every time we go to a new venue, I do the same thing. I'm gonna adjust my mic because this feels weirdly low right now.
It's like the Doctor Who cycle. You like the doctor that you grew up with, and then it turns into a new doctor, and you hate that doctor for 1 year. And then in the second year, you're like, all right, this place is okay. The new doctor's okay. And then the third year, you're back in love with the doctor. And then they switch the doctor out on you, and you're like, no, I hate this new doctor. And that's basically.
That's what it was. It was like, where is stuff? There's the contests were laid out really goofy of like what ones I thought should have been closer to the front. Like Scav Hunt. If you look here, Scav Hunt is a perfect example of this. On paper, Scav Hunt was in the perfect location. It was right up the front. The moment you entered the contest area, it was right there. It was like, because they're the most visual contest. But what they didn't account for was the giant opening door with the sun blaring in. In like Scav Hunt is best displayed in, I want to say in the dingy corner because that sounds terrible. But like in dark, they have lights, they have everything going on, they have music blasting. And it's weird that it was like in sunlight. Like I don't know how else to describe it.
I mean, that was definitely the first day we were there. Absolutely. The show floor was way too bright. I don't know who communicated with the Las Vegas Convention Center, but they did not communicate well that hackers do not like daylight.
Yeah, Braden says, yeah, the LVCC was great. All issues are fixable. I would agree. I mean, during the con, there was frustrations, but after the con, I mean, and when I actually step back, most of the frustrations I was having early on were all me things. They weren't con things. They were things like all my microphones were not working as they should. That's why we did a lot of pictures and not a lot of video. And it was because a firmware update went out, which would have fixed those issues. And I hit like the awful middle ground of I don't want to push a firmware update right before we leave and then find out that I broke everything and I should have. And so that was frustrating. And then it was like little things. Like Dual D has said something before, which was it's a trade show. No one hacks at DEF CON. And I felt that this year. And then I was like, no, that's my own frustration because it's taking a little bit longer to find my tribe because no one knows where anything is. But holy crow, I walked so much less this year. Last year, we were trekking like 12 to 14 miles a day. Like on average, 10 to 14 miles a day. Here, I think we were at like 6.
And I walked more than you because I was doing rounds way more than you were this year. That said, last year was light even compared to the year before that. I don't think we tracked the year before that, but that was the year we got the 50 videos or whatever it was.
Oh God!
And we were up and down and up and down and all over the place. My feet hurt so bad that year. This year, we definitely walked less. but it wasn't because we were necessarily doing less. It was
Mhm.
because everything was in one place.
Yeah, I had a thought as we left con, which was I didn't hear a single Sakun yell make a hole.
Yeah.
And it was
What a
sad.
loss. Yeah, what a
Like,
loss.
what is the purpose of a Sakun if they don't shout make
Oh
a hole?
no. I wouldn't go that far.
Oh,
Well,
it's horrible.
enjoy no
Brandon,
longer being a goon. There's
aw.
one things you know. If there's one thing you learn, don't mess with Sakuns. So, all right, so let's
This,
talk about this comment. Braden says the show floor was way too dark. Depending on where you were in the show, it was either way too dark or way too bright. And I don't know that that is a solvable problem.
I think that the way the lights are, each circuit runs. I'm trying to think of a way. The shorter end
Late.
of the rectangle, like that's
Yep.
the way they run. And because of that, they can only choose what sections. And then the problem is because they're so bright and they're so far up, the angle of them is a little goofy. So for the what was the CCAI, like the DARPA thing going on, like that the CCAI or AICC or whatever it is, because those curtains were so high up, it was darkening the stuff around it. So I think that was one. I'm guessing Braden's talking about where like a DC Next Gen and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And that was really dark over there. That was weirdly dark for what they were doing. But I think that one's probably fixable. You have to relocate it.
Yeah, one of the villages back behind that area, I got multiple complaints from them about it being too dark, and I was like, "This was an explicit choice by the folks." And the reason why is they were dealing with all analog equipment, so they couldn't read anything that they were trying to do in the village. So they were having to set up like ad hoc lights and stuff. So yeah, I do think this is all solvable though. Like, basically take all the contests, shove them next to the AICC thing next year, and just crank the lights down, and then put everyone that needs lights on the edges, like QM and all that stuff, and you'll be good to go.
You say that, then Scav Hunt's going to be right next to it, and all of a sudden, I sympathize
Good.
with the contest runners,
Good.
and I go, where do you put Scav Hunt? Like, where do you put Scav Hunt in this whole room?
Right next to the most high, visibility. Yeah, right next to the trade show. Make the trade show people stare down Scav Hunt and realize that this is still DEF CON.
Yeah, my comment right before Dan I talked to Dan V is we've said something on stream before, which was it's the 80-20. I believe it maybe even 90-10, even 95-5, where 90% of the con goers, it's a trade show, it's a conference, you do whatever. And about in those 90%, like, are there just to justify a better con for the 10% of people who it is truly con. And you notice, like, I'm not on Twitter or X or whatever too often, and I'm looking through comments and you see like two massive sections, like there was too much, there was this, blah, blah. And I think the frustration most people are feeling at this con is they're part of the 5%, the 5-10%, and it was harder for them to find, we'll say, their crew, their tribe, the goofballs, the oddballs, the weird. Right. Like I'm looking for a hacker at DEF CON, Mohawk, black shirt, real weird. Like that is the person I'm looking for. And it's harder to find at DEF CON when everyone's spread out.
So I think I put my finger on it on Sunday, and something was just sitting wrong with me the way the contest area was set up. And to call it a contest area is a very strong choice of words because it was all sectioned off. It was very sectioned off. I'm used to walking into a room and being able to scan the room and seeing everything interesting in a scan. Not everything, but like you could get the lay of the land very rapidly. This, you walked in to the big room and you saw curtains. And you saw curtains that made lanes, and you maybe saw one or two things directly in front of you and maybe the giant truck in the corner. And that was all you could do to get the lay of the land. You could not navigate the con without a map. That was impossible, right? You couldn't just go to the contest area and walk around. You wouldn't know when you left the contest area. You wouldn't know which of the booths were contests and which of them, like if you happened into a village. Like that was probably the single most frustrating thing. And it made it very difficult to feel like you were part of a bigger event. So like if I walked up to the Darknet table or Reality Overrun, or our new friends, our old friends running a new contest, if
Those
you walked up
effing
to those tables,
guys.
it felt like they were right across from each other and there was nothing else around you. Like that's how it
Mhm.
felt. Not that there wasn't, but that's how it felt. And that frustrated me because you're used to being able to like, oh, look, the lock picking village is 40 feet that way. But if you look that way now, there's just this giant black curtain. So I think the way they
Yeah.
chose to set it up with the curtains segregated the community way too much.
I think my two comments on that would be because of the curtains, I didn't lose my voice this year. Like
Also
my
true.
voice did not get hosed until the goon pitcher when I yelled out hack the planet. Like I was perfectly fine. My voice was fine, and that was weird to me. I could talk in a normal voice and be heard, and that was really unexpected for the room. But that's a big comment. I think of, like when I think back to like Caesar's Forum, all the contests were all in one room. And it
Yep.
felt alive. You could see Snacky and people like shoving their hands up Snacky, and it's a vending machine for those who don't know. Snacky. You're like, is that someone's handle? uh, but I think that looking at the contest area, you saw it alive, you saw it moving, you saw things jiving and all of that. And then here, you're right, it was secluded out and it was very spaced out. But I think going back, Braden, I agree. It's all solvable. I think all of these are solvable. It's the first time here. There's that. Dan, this is my first DEF CON. Found to be really comfortable, approachable for my first con. Yeah, it was. This. Oh, wait. I'm so glad you introduced yourself. I think I know. I'm matching handle, face, and all of that. This is the coolest experience for me. Like bumping into people and people are like, oh, I watch Hacker Hangout tonight. I ask the question every time. I'm like, what have you done with your life to lead you to the moment where on Saturday morning you're watching us? And how best can I take that knowledge and advise my kids to avoid those things, to avoid this situation? No, that's terrible. But no, I very much like appreciate you coming up and saying that. That means so very much. And that was so cool to me. Having people
It's
come up.
actually really fun. My favorite thing is it's really fun when I'm standing right next to him and people introduce themselves to Silk, and I'm just sitting there watching and waiting, and like they talk about Hacker Hangouts, and I'm like, I am not anywhere near as recognizable as Silk. I love this. He's the one who's going to get bothered, not me. And then I just turn around, take more pictures, and move on. It's great.
I think like that one was so cool. I think the other thing is you say it was very comfortable. There was never a time where I felt like I was going into a meat grinder or unsafe. And I used the time me and Gowrie were walking to the vendor area at Caesar's Forum.
Or
I don't get claustrophobic. I don't get like, oh my goodness. I just don't get that feeling. Probably like one of the few times in my life I got it was when we were walking down the vendor hall at Caesar's Forum, and it was so many people, and you started hearing like the grumbling of the crowd around you, and everyone was stuck, and then you tried to just move to get a little bit more comfortable, and you'd hear the grumbling, and I'm like, we need to leave. We need to leave. And they ended up turning it, not like there wasn't a big issue, but like they ended up clearing that hallway and things like that. Like never had that feeling. Like legitimately, there was never a time. And then what was cool is you could go down the massive like infinity hallway. And then if that was even if you just felt like, it's a little crowded, you could dive into the conference room, the room, I don't know what it is. And then you could walk down the hallway in there. And if that was crowded, you could go one step over and then walk down the other hallway, which was like in the middle of the room, like we're cross vendors.
the main two hallways, like I would say the outside the main hall, that hallway that just goes down, the one that's actually carpeted, that one never got so crowded that it ever felt like one of the past places that we had DEF CON. Definitely not the Forum. The Forum was great, but the hallways somehow still weren't big enough, even though they were quite big. It never got that crowded, but as you said, even times where it did get crowded and you needed to get somewhere, there was always an option There's always a pressure valve that you could just be like, oh, I'm gonna go over here and use an alternate path, and
Yeah.
it not an issue. And I never really used the upstairs to bypass in that way because it never needed to. Because you could go half the length of that hallway upstairs and then come down.
Even the escalators, like you'd expect
Yep.
those to have a big line. You could just cruise up them. Food was utterly insane pricing. Like we get goon bucks,
Yeah.
so we were able to do that. But like it was when it's like $20 for like a bag of chips. It felt like I think it was like $15 for like a slice of pizza. Like that one's a little goofy, but
Silk and I sat down for lunch the first day, and I used my goon bucks, and we got 2 chicken sandwiches and 2 bottles of water, and the total was $53, I think. And I was like, wow. Now, first of all,
uh,
that chicken sandwich was good though. Like
that's
for once, it is nice to have actual food
yeah.
instead of just like hot dogs and whatever.
When something not fried, that was the beautiful
Yeah.
thing. It's like for me, who's like just in touch
You know
with
what's
my
what's
my,
really
my
funny?
health.
We were laughing about this. Like we went to the food area. I think it was on Saturday, and we're waiting in line to get the chicken sandwiches. And we're looking, and there's like 15 sandwiches just laying out, and about 30 people waiting in line. And they're all waiting for tendies. They're all waiting for chicken tenders to come out. And we're like, there is food right there and a con behind you. Why are you spending your time waiting for, you know what? Who cares? Does anyone want sandwiches? No, we're taking these sandwiches and leaving.
Please, I beg of you. Gator, great that you're on here. Yes. Hello, beautiful party people. Favorite new creation, malort as a verb. Malorted. You've tried malort, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I like Malort. It's not bad.
I actually like malort. That was my first introduction to malort ware. I was walking up at GurCon. It was either GurCon or DEF CON, meeting the Chicago crew, tasting it, and going, they offered me a drink, and I'm like, hey, I don't really like the taste of alcohol. Nothing against it. I just, the flavor doesn't really hit me all that well. They're like, well, try this. Maybe you'll like it. And they meant it as a joke, and I tasted it. And I'm like, oh, it's not bad. And they all look at me like, you are clearly one of us now. That's how I met the team to do like NSEC and things like that. Oh, it was incredible. Nice. Looking through some more comments here. Every time. Yeah, you're right. As I said, no goon said make a hole. It was very disappointing to me. This needs to be corrected next year.
All right, so next year we got to get them to shout make a crowd or something.
That's true. Food court at Fountain Blue was better. I heard that. I didn't do the food trucks looked like there was a huge lines there. That was the one place I did see a line. And those were cool. And I think, like, again, first year at a new venue is always goofy. Every time first time at the Rio was goofy. It was hard to find parties again this year. That was the other thing. Like, we weren't really actively searching for them. And there was the DEF CON official ones. I'm curious what the rest of what the rest of DEF CON felt like. Was it hard to find parties? Was it hard to find, because you didn't know what hotel they were at? Were they at the Rio or Sahira or Fountain Blue, or I have no idea.
Definitely all had to go by word of mouth. And the few that I was like mildly interested in going to, we were dealing with the logistics. We were at the Rio, and there are buses to and from the Rio, but they only go every half an hour. So we get back to the Rio, I think Thursday night or Friday night, whatever it is, and the DEF CON is canceled party's going on, and I got an invite. And by the time I sat down, like they go until 2 a.m., 3 a.m. or whatever. By the time I sat down in my room, I was like, man, like 3 things are going through my head. I'm like, I know COVID is still out and about. I don't know that I want to go to a hotel party. So I was a little reticent already, but I was like, all right, maybe I'll consider it. And then when I realized it was going to be like a $20 cab ride over and then hang out, drink, blah, blah, and then a $20 cab ride back, and it was already like 11 o'clock, I was like, yeah, I think I'm just going to go to bed and hit up the con early tomorrow. And that, I feel like there's probably a good chance a lot of that happened for people where because things were so spread out and you didn't know where anything was, you couldn't pre-coordinate where parties were going to occur. And God help you if you were staying at Resort World.
Oh gosh, that one sound. I don't think DEF CON's released their official statement. They said they're going to, but for those who don't know, they were doing like pretty much. They, I guess, not illegal. They were searching. They legitimately like targeted DEF CON rooms. Like there was their internal note that was found at the hotel. I'm assuming it's legitimate, as I assume everything on the internet is legitimate. But it was released saying like, hey, this is the block of DEF CON rooms. This is why this is what you're searching for. But they were specifically targeting DEF CON attendees and looking through their hotel rooms, which is absolutely insane. But in Karma Justice, they were just accused of hosting. I saw. Did you see the headline? It was like Resort World accused of hosting criminals. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this us? And then you look at the article.
Us.
I thought it was too. And it ends up being they were purposely hosting like illegal gamblers who were known to be dodging taxes and stuff like that. So that was pretty funny.
Yeah, let me try and pull it up. I remember seeing it on the DEF CON subreddit. Now I can't find it. But yeah, no, they're basically being accused of enabling money laundering, more or less. That's I presume what is the extension being, but the idea being they're hosting known criminals and some form of illicit activity, and they know about it, therefore they're enabling it, and therefore they're part of it, right? Like that. That's basically what it comes down to.
Here we go. Found it right here. Yeah, Las Vegas casino accused of hosting criminals. Resort World executives ignored signs that some of its high-rolling gamblers were involved in illegal betting. Nevada regulator alleges. And then it's all protected between Wall Street Journal because they're terrible. So that and I don't know, there's some karma there for them. My guess is they're not going to be in the hotel block next year.
Probably not. Although that's a shame. It's a shame that they're such assholes because they were one of the two convenient places to get a block of rooms, right? The Fontainebleau obviously being the other one.
Though I will speaking of assholes, Caesars, not as much of one as we thought. That was really cool.
Yeah,
not an asshole. Dark Tangent during closing ceremonies gave a little bit of the background. He didn't give a reason of like why they canceled. Like there's any number of reasons it could have been. I have my guess, which is just that DEF CON's not this is totally not based on anything. This is my guess, is that it's DEF CON attendees are not a net profit for the casino. Normally, if you have like a business conference, like realtors conference, every individual that attends the conference is going to go out and gamble and make money for the casino. DEF CON attendees don't do that as much, so they're probably just not a profitable one for the casino. That's my guess. But either way, Dark Tangent gets a call. They said, hey, it's canceled. However, they're like, we already made arrangements with LVCC. They already have the thing blocked for you. You can't stay here, but they're all set. Here's the contact information. And they helped kind of move the conference on over. So it wasn't like, okay, you're done. They kind of set up here is your location. Again, DEF CON still had to come up with all the logistics of moving their stuff on over there. They have stuff stored in Las Vegas. I'm guessing it's in a convenient location to Caesars, but I don't know. Con happened, and it's in a new location, and we're back there next year, supposedly. It was said during closing ceremonies that's where we're going to be, not with like absolute certainty, but with enough certainty where it sounds like they already released the room block and it's listed on the site.
Is it? I hadn't gone back to defcon.org because they still have the 32 stuff up, but I haven't seen yet. So that's 20 DCT training. Yeah, I haven't seen the room block for 33 yet.
They released I'm positive they released the room block because they release it at closing ceremonies. He had the link and everything at closing ceremonies. So I don't know if it's on the site yet, but the link is live from that because I had part of my team actually already book rooms, which I would advise anyone who is going to DEF CON 33 or even thinking about it or even considering it, Go get your
Book the
room
room now.
now. You can cancel it and get 100% refund. But my two comments there are book it now because it's significantly cheaper, like 3 times less expensive if you do it now versus later. And 2, make sure you remember you did it, because I have made the mistake where I had 2 rooms and booked 2 and then canceled one of them and then had to cancel the second one and didn't realize I had it. Luckily, that was at Paris. They were fine me canceling it, but like you don't really get as many confirmations as you should from them of saying, "Hey, yeah, you still got a room available." They're just like bill you for it. Yeah,
I'm guessing the Rio. I'm guessing the Rio's back on the list of. The Rio was really good to us. My understanding, and a lot of this is second or third hand information. The Rio supposedly was very nice to DEF CON. Offered them the room blocks and waived like resort fees and all that stuff. And supposedly the buses we got for shuttling to and from the convention center were like included in setting that whole thing up and to entice them, because I think the Rio wants us back. Speaking of the Rio,
it's just not big enough though.
We learned something very interesting about the Rio hotel rooms. They have a fascinating architectural decision, where there was a window in the shower. And the window in the shower does not look outside. No. That would make way too much sense, right? That would require the shower to be on the far end next to the window. No, the window in the shower is exactly human head sized, and it looks out into the room right over the beds. So either you can look and watch someone sleep while you shower, or someone can look in at you while they shower.
So you shower. This picture I have up on screen, it doesn't show the context, because yes, that is most definitely me in there. It doesn't show the context that Gowrie is in the bedroom. At one point, I couldn't keep a straight face. I'd shower the entire time, just like washing my armpit, like aggressively looking at Gowrie through the window. And then at some point, things like this just started happening. Like there, we recreated scenes from Titanic with the window, and just like hand on the window. I don't like. So like I couldn't keep. One thing about DEF CON for me, that is the hardest I laugh the entire year. Like it's not often I get to the point where I'm having trouble breathing laughing. Like that doesn't happen during the year. At DEF CON, it happens numerous times. And this was one I lost it. I couldn't keep a straight face the entire time I was showering.
He would occasionally paint stuff on the window, and I would just lose my shit. It was funny.
Gosh. It's just like
it was good. It was good stuff. It was good stuff.
The thing which is amazing, this is like these type of decisions don't happen in a bubble. Like someone came up with this idea and said, Mr. Architect, I have a great idea. We will put a window in the shower. And he goes, oh, that's a good idea. That will like overlook like the Las Vegas Strip. No. It will go with a window looking into the room. He's like, what? Wait, what? So yeah. From the shower in, he's like, oh, like privacy block glass. So you get some natural lighting. No. Just a window straight through, clear. Okay, I can run with that. And then that goes up to the design committee, and the design committee approves it. And then that gets approved. Like there was probably tens, if not like 20 people who approved this decision. And then engineers would have to engineer this thing. Like this thing, everyone's looking at like, that is a brilliant idea. We should do that. Do you think there was actually a person on the team who's like, these people are insane? This should not be happening at all. We don't need a window between the shower and the, oh my gosh.
Or all of those people are like us, and they're like, this is the worst, dumbest idea I have ever heard of, but it is fucking hilarious. So I'm going to say nothing.
Gosh. There was, I'm trying to think of some of the other times where I almost died laughing. I think one of the another really funny one, didn't die laughing on this one, but like Cannibal made these, mine's not charged, made these, I'm going to like try and get it to focus. Yeah, these like badges for the photo team, which all they did, like they're like a resin case and then a touch screen, and all it did was like rotate through GIFs. And the Dual D one, I crack up so hard every time I see it because it's just him dancing on top of a table, and that made it in here. That one was quite funny.
And then, of course, we haven't talked about the thumbnail of the video. So one of the scav hunt items this year was, and I quote, Rule 34 of a consenting goon. And if you're not familiar with Rule 34, go ahead and take a moment, Google rules of the internet and look up Rule 34. I don't know if Silk can read. Oh, there you go. You got the, yeah.
I just put it right over your face right there.
So I was inquired, or I was asked by an attendee if they could have my consent to produce Rule 34 content. And I said, sure. And I gave them a little pose for a reference picture, and they went off. And this is the PG censored version. And the Hacker Hangouts logo can give you an idea of, possibly what's going on there. But it, so there's now Rule 34 content of Gallery out there. It's great. It was hilarious. That photo, that I presume Dual D and Evil Mofo are going to get that framed and hang it up every year at Scav Hunt, because that picture the original now lives at Scav Hunt.
Yeah, it was, speaking of Scav Hunt. Oh, message from DT Braden. Where is this? Sorry, no room blocks are open yet. We accidentally announced, but they are not yet. Okay, so Thank you, Braden.
I told you I'm not crazy.
Scav Hunt was a black badge this year. I can't remember if it was an anniversary for them, but that was pretty cool. Like
they hate that. They hate black badge.
No, here's the thing: is I think most contest runners are not fans of black badge, and it's not. There's a zillion other reasons for it, and I'm part of me. I get it. You run a long-standing contest. I'm not saying like Reality Overrun. That was their first year doing it. Like that would have been a surprise and things like that. But Command Code and Zero Altitude and Samosa they were part of Darknet beforehand, and it's been a decade of running contests. So when you have someone who dedicates themselves so much to content creation at DEF CON, and then they're giving away a black badge, which gives free entry to DEF CON for life for their contest, yet they get nothing. I think that's the feeling of it. Not like a oh, I deserve this. It's like as a goon, if you don't know this, you know this, but goons after 10 years have the opportunity to retire. After you retire, you get a gold badge that gives you free entry to DEF CON for life. Again, that's after you retire. Not all goons have them after 10 years. It's after you actually retire and stop being a goon. But you don't get that as a content creator. You can go 10, 20 years of creating contests. Like I look at like Hack Fortress. It's the same crew for the most part, majority of them, that has ran Hack Fortress forever. And they dedicate a huge chunk of their time to it. Darknet. They take 2 weeks off. They jump right back into it. They spend their entire year doing it for over a decade. In their hand, I get it. That is the part I think where a lot of contest runners go like, there's the black badge.
So they are, and here's something to consider. One, they do give out contest badges, so you do get into the con for free that year. But it's a limited number. It's usually like 2 or 3. So there's that. And what they've done in the past 2 years is they've taken all the exhibitor money that they got from selling space, which now I think that they have. I was very uneasy about the exhibitors. I'm going to tie these together. I was very uneasy about the exhibitors the last year, the year before, whatever the first year was, because there was money involved and it was taking space away from content creators that otherwise could have gotten it. Now, with the amount of space we have at the convention center, I think we have space to bring in more exhibitors and make sure they are cordoned off from the culture is the best way to put it. Let them do whatever they're going to do, because this year it was my understanding that instead of food money, they paid for hotel blocks for contest runners, which is a lot more money.
Yeah.
Is a lot more money, right? And so I do think that they are starting to figure out that if we don't take care of the content creators, there will become, issues between us in the long run, and it'll be harder and harder to maintain as we get bigger and bigger. So yes, they're giving away a black badge and they feel like they're not getting, compensation's the wrong word for it. They're not getting rewarded for their work in a lot of ways. But now I think DEF CON is trying to find that middle ground of, we don't want to give out 1 billion black badges. You need to earn one. They've already said that. You don't win a black badge, you earn a black badge. And how do we make it so that the content creators feel like they're being taken care of and appreciated in the same way that goons do? Like, I got to tell you, this is my 3rd year gooning. It's very clear today that DEF CON takes care of their goons.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt that a lot this year. Like the being able to eat, being able to, stay at the conference. Basically, more or less, I paid for my flight out there, and it was fantastic, right? But that said, I was on my feet 12, 14 hours running all over the place, getting pictures, taking care of people, getting sock goons when people, there were a couple people that tripped over things, got hurt. I had to report those up, take care of those people, make sure that the security and stuff was taken care of. So it's, it's not all fun and game being a goon. There's plenty of fun to be had, but you're working. But I do think that they're trying to thread that needle for the content creators as well. And I think that I think they're starting to get there.
I think this venue too allows them the opportunity to do more than they did before. There was, I don't remember the numbers, but I'll get the ratio pretty close. It was like there was like 62 contests submitted, and like 58 of them were approved. It was like a huge number of the ones that requested it got it because they had that much more space. And then they had things like I didn't visit any of them, but Braden's talking about the creator stages. Like those are, as I understand it, those were pretty open stages where you had to request talks, but for the most part, you could have a topic, go and get it approved, and get your spot later in the conference. Like there's more stages, there's more talks being approved. I mean, heck, we made this comment on stream saying like if you're ever thinking about doing a contest or team, there is a window of opportunity where you can get approved with because there's so much more space there.
Oh yeah.
We
had the impression. Go ahead.
Oh no,
I said we had the impression this year. We had the impression this year that anyone who submitted a contest or submitted some space probably got approved because they went from the Caesars and being split across 3 hotels to not knowing what to do with all the space. And then you show up and you're like, oh my God, we have so much more space than I thought. It was crazy.
Yeah. Braden, I was thrilled by the number of DEF CON attendees who discovered DC Next Gen, saying, I'm bringing my daughter or son next year. I'll throw this back on up. I love this. The thing which actually upset me with the kids, the DEF CON kids, was it's gone through so many goofy iterations over the years. It started with, I think it was like DEF CON Kids, and then Hack for Kids, and then Roots Asylum, and then there was like nothing, and then it came back, and now it's DC Next Gen, and I am hoping beyond hope this one takes hold. And I think it's because the volunteers, I'm guessing that either the volunteers age out because like they started because their kids are there and they age out, or B, because it ends up being so successful, they go and make a nonprofit for it and then run it at different cons. Like Hack for Kids did this. There's like 4 or 5 different cons they do now. And my guess is they just kind of like, okay, DEF CON, we've kind of like, or they're, I don't know, whatever they do. I am begging that DC Next Gen continues to grow it. My kids are too young. I don't want to bring them this year. And also like cons for me, not for them. At one point I do want to bring them, and I'm really hoping DC Next Gen turns into what the hopes and dreams were originally for it, where it is a place where you can have your con, kids can have theirs, you then come together and there's projects you can do together. Like I'm really hoping it builds out because that is, I do think you're hitting this age with DEF CON being 33 years next year. you're hitting this point where most people there have kids old enough because people started going and they're like teens. And now they're getting to the point where most people there probably are starting to have kids who and they're getting to the age where they can bring them now.
Yeah. First DEF CON was 1993, and so fast forward 32 years. A lot of those folks, if you were 7, I'm sure like Gulo's first con, I think he was a teenager, and that was in the single digits back at the Alexis Park, I think. And he reminisces all the time. And I can imagine he's watched a lot of con goers over the years slowly start to incorporate their kids into the con and being like, "What are you doing?" And then realizing, actually, this is great.
Yeah,
right?
like,
we get to corrupt the next generation.
Especially when you see like his badge this year, like that was a fun badge. Again, this is now, it's cool to see the iterations he's done on his badges where it started as like a paper badge. I mean, it's darknet, and then it kind of has branched out. Was the paper badge with electronic tape to now go like a piece of balsa wood with springs on it, which you can now hook your circuits to. Like this was a cool idea to learn basic circuitry. I was about to mix surgery with circuitry. And it was just a great way. You had all the components there. That one was quite cool. My 15th DEF CON and my oldest is 12. Yeah, they're getting to Gator. They're getting to that age. This is now the time. Question for you, Gator. While we're sitting here, at what point do you separate it as this is my con, this is their con, or do you just bring in assistance where you have, the spouse who's now going to watch the kids and they go do their thing? I'm curious where it is. Gulo is straight up awesome. All right, what's next? I'm looking at this other message of creating community and building social good versus creating a competition or hoarding knowledge that comes along with Black Badge. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I don't think when it comes to the Black Badge, you're not hoarding knowledge. I think what you're getting at is when I was competing in DEF CON 22 Darknet, I could tell you just based off of the feeling the moment it was announced as a Black Badge, because that was one of the first years where they started rotating Black Badges where you didn't know it was a Black Badge beforehand. And it was like midday, like late Saturday. And immediately, all of a sudden, no one started talking to each other. Like we would have like a group sitting around a table and we were working on a challenge. And then it was announced Black Badge and everyone kind of ran off and was doing their own thing. It felt less like a community thing and more like a competition. And I think that's what you're getting at, Gator, with that comment. And I would agree. But I think that's also that's entirely why they just don't announce Black Badges. Like, heck, we were watching the contest after all the contests closed, and you'd hear like Grifter whisper over going like, "That's a Black Badge. We need to take that. Get that slide out of there." Like it was being like actively announced as the contests were being like awarded.
I think they were making the decision as the slides came up. They were like, no. Next slide. Don't worry about it. Next slide.
I think that we had that moment of Schrodinger's Schrodinger's Black Badge, I called it, which was me and Gowrie won Reality Overrun. I guess if it's considered a contest, we'll call it a contest because it was in the contest area. But we were laughing. We're like, how funny would that be if ended up being Black Badge, because we named our team These Effing Guys. So that when they get up there and announce, they're like, who won this? These effing guys. So I was pretty happy about that. It was a fun contest.
So we were going to talk about one news article, not to have this one dominated by DEF CON. And it was every American's social security number and address was possibly stolen in a hack. And I forget who got hacked, but I'm staring at the US DOD claims a hacking group called US DOD, that's funny, claims to have stolen 2.7 billion records of personal information from Americans, including their social security numbers and physical addresses. They offered to sell the stolen records, which includes everyone in the US, UK, and Canada, to a forum of hackers. This being like an online forum, right? The data was stolen from National Public Data, a platform that offers personal information to employers, private investigators, staffing agencies, and others doing background checks. So I have to look up who the hell National Public Data is and why they have everyone's social security number.
I'm guessing, I'm not positive on this. My guess is it is, well, have you ever like filled out a bank, like applied for a bank card or anything like that, and you get your 3 questions back, which are like, what, pick one of these. Which of these states, like streets, do you have interest in? And then it lists off
Data
3
broker.
streets. Yeah, there.
It's a
I think
data broker.
so that what happens is you send them the social security number and they send questions back, or there
Yeah.
be the data broker for the third party that does that. There's a lot of those ones which have way too much information. I mean, this is my argument with social security numbers. They're the dumbest thing. They really are. They were never supposed to be used in the way they were like intent. They were used. They weren't supposed. Heck, back in the day, these were public, like in the sense of they weren't meant to be private numbers. And then all of a sudden they're like, well, everyone has one. Why don't we use this? Okay, well, I guess there are private and they're secure now. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, this is well, they're not really public numbers. They're supposed to functionally be your social security account number. And you're not supposed to give it out at all for identity and for anything. Like the cards used to say on them, do not use this for identification purposes. But the problem is that the U.S. does not have a national ID because we are culturally quite anti-government, and the idea of the government tracking us, be that what it is, that's why functionally we do not have a national ID. And that is why, we kind of backdoored a national ID through the Social Security group, because everyone who has a birth certificate gets a social security number, and businesses and other agencies just decided, fuck it, we'll just use it, even though we're not supposed to. And then eventually they have since removed the do not use this for identification purposes from the card you get. And they are really dumb as an ID number because there's no security built in. It used to be social security numbers. This has changed, but it used to be that if you knew the rough geographical location that the person was born in, you could figure out the first 3 numbers, because that used to be based, the first 3 numbers of your social security used to be based on where the geographical region you were born in. The second 2 numbers were based on what hospital you were born in that region. And then the last 4 was just an incrementing number. So if you knew roughly the time and place someone was born, you had a good chance of getting within 1,000 numbers, and then you could just guess, right? Like easy brute force.
This one was weird is in Italy, this is a whole nother story. I'm probably sure another time, as it's still getting finalized, but the Italian tax code is completely guessable, or not guessable. It's actually like by design, you can figure it out for anyone. It's like I don't know. You can look it up online. There's a whole method to it of actually figuring it out, which is fine. They're not made to be private. Let's go back. Though they're all dumped. Holy cow. In some ways, I hope this fixes something, because I cannot imagine, like, it is almost to the point where I think you're insane if you don't have your credit card, your credit score locked. Like, this is something everyone should do. It's free. You should have your credit score locked so it's that no one else can open up accounts for it. But that doesn't even solve it. Even if you completely lock your credit bureau stuff, any bank that you're currently at can still open accounts even though it's locked, which is insane to me. But again, this always just goes back to a whole nother thing, which is all the credit bureaus. That whole thing is insane. The whole idea of how we do credit is insane in this country.
So I got a text from my brothers that was like, is this real? Do you think this is a problem? And I go, is it a problem? Yeah. Is it real? Yeah. Should you worry about it? Probably not. Probably because just about every person's social security number has probably been breached at least 10 times in the modern day. Like, as I like to say, we've all been playing a shitty lottery for about 2 decades. And if you happen to have your number come up, congratulations, you won the shitty lottery. It's going to be a bad couple of weeks for you. I'm sorry.
I would argue, though, is like I had mine taken. And it wasn't bad, because I guarantee the first time it ever happened, it was like the most horrendous thing for that person because they called and they're like, hey, my identity has been stolen. And they're like, what are you talking about? You're talking to me right now. You're not stolen. Click. And they're like, because there's no understanding of what that even means. Now it's like, hey, your identity was stolen. They're like, okay, well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to list off these accounts. You're going to file a police report just for your own records. You're going to then grab that information. You're going to fill out Form 321B. You're going to send that in. And then we put this in. And then you're going to lock your credit score and you're not responsible for anything. Okay, there you go. Like at this point is now it's old hat. I'm curious about what ends up happening when new attack paths are found. Like there was an attack path where they started going after your titling so they could get the titling for your house and then get the deed for your house transferred to them and then sell the house online without ever even owning the house. And then someone shows up and they're like, hey, I own the house now. And you're like, what are you talking about? And like, so you could do these absolutely, utterly ridiculous these attacks, but they're at this point, they're known. So we have defenses against them. We have insurance for them. So like, I'm curious how much at a certain point we need a fix for it. These numbers, but I'm not sure if we will. Again, that's not a defeatist attitude. I just don't see them coming up with a solution.
The fix for it is a national ID. And then you reissue everyone's social security numbers so that they become account numbers and they're private again. And that's it. Like that way you have a national ID number that is public and is meant to be public and has security built in. And then that can just be its own thing separate from your social security number. The biggest issue is that there's no security features to a social security number. In theory, it could be a totally functional number used for the same purpose, used to identify all of that stuff, and it would be fine. But, I want to meet the person whose social security number is 1.
I'm sitting here
000000001.
I'm not sure if that exists. And I say this mainly because I think I remember looking this up and there was no hospital which was actually named with a 1 or location. So I was curious about the exact same thing. It was the same thing with phone numbers, like who has 000000001, and it doesn't exist because there's no area code with 000.
Yeah, and that's intentional, actually. Anyway, so yeah, moving on. Welcome to the shitty lottery. If you didn't know you were playing, now you know you're playing. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, but don't worry if it is taken. I don't know. We've gotten like 4 of these identity things lately, where it's like your identity was stolen. AT&T, like it was like I haven't had AT&T in a decade, and still they had my information and it was leaked. They're like, but don't worry, here's 2 months of identity protection.
Yeah,
how is that allowed? First zip code is 01001. So that's the part where I'm like, there has to be some legality versus like, I don't know, like actually let's jump into this. If you are a company and you hold private data, should you be responsible if there is a breach and that data comes out, and how much should you be responsible for?
Yes. And yes, like this is, I don't think anyone reasonably believes that they shouldn't be held responsible. This is why we have regulations around, I forget all the regulation names. You probably know them better than I do anyway. But absolutely, you should be held responsible. The problem is that now in the online environment, how do you regulate that so hard so as to fix the problem without functionally killing internet businesses overnight?
Well, let's go with this. You own a movie theater. Bam. You own a movie theater, or like whatever, a dentist office, something where you have to hold people's information. People sign up, they fill it out. You use the most standard of all technologies. You use WordPress, Postgres on the back end, like a standard LAMP stack, MySQL, whatever it is. You patch it. You do everything you're supposed to. There's a vulnerability found in Apache, which completely dumps all of the data in your database. Like it's a problem with WordPress, whatever. Insert standard technology. You didn't screw up. Your only screw up was you decided to use a piece of technology which ended up having an ODay in it. Should you be responsible?
So that's a different question. And the answer is obviously no, right? But this goes back to like who becomes responsible. And we've had this discussion on stream before. Should developers be held responsible for vulnerabilities in their code. And there was a push not too long ago to try and do something like this. And I think it came down to like, oh, open source, no big deal. Closed source, yeah, you have more liability applied to you. I don't think that regulation ever went through. But that's like super dangerous, right? Because where do you stop? Does it become the corporation who maintains the library is responsible, or is it the developer themselves who worked on that piece of code becomes liable? It's like I don't know how you solve this problem for sure. Like I don't know who becomes responsible in that stack under that logic.
Yeah, and same thing. Say it's Apache. It's open source. It's a foundation. It's nonprofit. Like all of a sudden, it's like, okay, who's responsible? And this is where the whole thing is at some point, you go, oh, all we do is insurance. You just have private insurance, or you have some sort of national insurance for your identity, and this is where it starts becoming super goofy, where you go, there's not actually a fix. What we do is we do like what credit cards are. You're just not responsible for fraud. They make enough money where they don't have to worry about fraud. I don't know. Like, there's not a good fix at a certain point, but I also don't have a solution, because everything is fundamentally broken all the time. I don't know.
Everything's broken all the time forever.
That's pretty much the comment of today. I don't know. Like, so there's that. We talked DEF CON. We talked all the Social Security numbers. We talked that Resort World. What good topic to end on. What was your highlight of DEF CON? What was your favorite thing?
Oh, it's going to be the same answer every year. It's just getting to see the people.
Yeah. I don't know. Mine's a little different.
Mine was cuddling with you Sunday on the bus on the way back to. You got that picture? Yeah.
Oh no, where'd it go? All right, here we go.
Michelle asked me where our registry is. Where are we registered? Oh, that one. That's funny.
Oh, the one on the bus. I don't have that one.
Yeah. Cannibal has a picture of us cuddling on the bus, and I sent that to Michelle, my wife, and she's just like, "Where are you guys registered?" And it took me a second to figure out what she was saying.
Oh my gosh, I need to see if I can find this one. Because that was actually a really good one. Did you send it to me?
What?
That picture? The one of us on the bus.
Cannibal sent it to you.
It's in the it's in the Photo Goon chat. You know what? The one I will share, which is just one of my favorites, is, let's see if I can save the image really fast. Yep, here we go. This one still cracks me up. Just like this perfect view of you inside the AI CCAI. There you go.
Asking in the light of whatever that place was.
Mine was Sonicos in his trading card game.
Oh, that was we didn't even talk about that.
That was the highlight of my con, when he walked up and he's like, "Hey, did anyone tell you?" And I'm like, "Tell me why?" He's like, "Well, the about the card." I'm like, "Oh yeah, someone told me about the card." And you saw like this look of disappointment on his face, and it was like, he's like, "Who told you?" I'm like, "AST Cell," because he shared it in the Photo Goon thing. And then I see Sonicos go, "Oh, no one did tell you." And then he handed me like the silk card, like the one which someone made specifically for me, which that was a highlight of mine. I don't have it here. It's upstairs. But that was a highlight. The trading card game was such a cool thing. It was not trading card game. The trading cards, that was so cool. I can't believe he got them all done in like 2 weeks too.
I'm surprised that nothing has ended up on eBay yet. I've been kind of keeping an eye out to see if DEF CON trading cards. There is no listing for DEF CON trading cards yet on eBay. I'm a little surprised. I would have thought that would have been an instant listing.
I would have thought it would be too. I'm trying to see if I can find the picture for it, because that one was, this would have been a very early picture. Yeah, here we go. So this, let me see if I can get my camera up here. I'm going to zoom in right here. Oh, this is such a terrible way of doing it. Oh no. See if I can get like a look of it. This is so not how you're supposed to do it. Like, I'm not sure if you can see that, but it was all of them setting up all the different cards. There's like 175 of them, which was just absolutely insane. Yeah, that was a cool thing. All right. There we go. What else? What's the seeing people, the trading card game, yeah, it's hard to collect. I think it was 178. There's a few ones that were not listed there. Yeah, trading on Discord. Like I'm sure someone's going to release NFTs for him. So
oh yeah. Oh god. Oh my goodness.
I hope he does figure out a way of getting those printed so people can buy them. Like those were so cool. Or like a whole sheet of them or something like that. I understand he doesn't own all the artwork, but
mint them based on Defcoin, obviously.
Yeah, proof of ponage.
Yeah. Proof of ponage.
I think that was cool. Again, meeting people, Scav Hunt. I always love Team Fortress. I always love Reality Overrun was a great one. I mean, even the badge this year. We haven't even talked about that. I think it's the best badge. I actually would argue it is the best badge I have ever had at DEF CON. I think.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the only counter that is like one of my absolute favorite ones was DEF CON 21, which was the card one. It looked like a card deck one. I really liked that one. Lost at that one. And it was made, the black badge of that one was really cool. But like this year, hands down, they were so ambitious. Like this was the highest, most technical, coolest badge, which had hands down the best functionality of all of them. I don't think it's in question. Because if you set, this was like one of the features of the badge, which I just thought was incredible. If you set the date and time on the badge during the conference, you had like the little game you could search around on the search around and move around the conference center in it. And if you went into a room like track 2 with your thing at a certain time, the person on stage in the room in the game matched reality. Like they matched the schedule of the entire conference in the badge. That is incredible. You had a functional, you had the maps. There was. I'm looking over at my wall over here. There's not a single badge that competes with that. They've gotten better every year. I will say.
I mean, I can think of some darknet badges that compete with that.
Sure. I would absolutely argue that the DEF CON badges are more function. There's cooler things on them and all that. But the budget for the DEF CON badge was 5 times the DEF CON one was?
Oh, darknet badge. Yeah.
Or the darknet badge.
Yeah, the darknet badge budget, I think, I don't remember exactly, but it was definitely a little bit higher. So for years we had more capability on it. And then this one was they took the newest ARM chips from Raspberry Pi, and it was the first 30,000 of these chips that rolled off the line were in the DEF CON badge. That was a really cool announcement.
Talk about a risk, though. They're like, by the way, this chip has never been used in anything. Here you go. Have fun. Yeah, that was cool. All right.
Cool.
With that, what's your closing shots?
Love your hacker family. Shout out to Gator. Definitely see next year at Con. Don't be afraid to come up and say hi. We really enjoyed that. Definitely don't be afraid to come up and say hi to Silk while I laugh in the corner. If you do that, make no mention of Hacker Hangouts and just say, "Oh, hi, Silk. It's good to see you again," so that you make him as uncomfortable as possible, like many people did, until about 5 minutes into the conversation when they finally mention Hacker Hangouts and liking the stream.
I shouldn't be giving away these secrets, but for anyone watching, the secret I use is always the question, when was the last time we saw each other? And there's certain questions you drop, which is, if I drop this question, I'm fishing for information in a way where I'm hoping you don't notice, because it's terrible when they're like, "Oh yeah, we work together," or "Oh yeah, I'm a client of yours." But that's the trick. It was an incredible con. Every year gets a little bit better. I am pumped for next year. I think LVCC moves us all into the same room. Pumped about that. I was excited. Every time someone came up to me, it was like, oh, I'm celebrity status. I really like it. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out on like an impromptu stream on Friday. Yeah, thanks for watching.
Saturday.
Hack on.